Welcome back to the Dad Chronicle. I'm your host, Alex Albisu. This is episode 147. It's pretty clear that we're in some pretty unprecedented times here in the United States. Last week, a lot of folks in the United States and even probably worldwide saw the death of Charlie Kirk, politically assassinated, speaking to some college kids in Utah. And while I didn't necessarily agree with the things that Charlie Kirk said, the principle of it, in that our free speech is being affected, in one way or another, is really concerning to me. And that spiraled a bit into a lot of just the online rhetoric that we see today and a lot of the doom scrolling, things like that. It's put me in a really negative headspace. Not just that event, it's really the culmination of, the last several years. There's just such animosity, I guess you could say, between both sides of the political fence, and it's created a real sense of struggle for me and my mental health. And I realized that a lot of this was due to my questioning of happiness and what it means to be happy, and also just how to better spend my time not doom scrolling and just being there as a parent for my kids. I remember back to a conversation I had with Wendi Dunford, who you all are likely familiar with if you've been listening to the show for a while. She's a licensed clinical therapist and somebody that has provided a lot of value to this show. And we were able to sync up in person earlier this year during the TMS Vegas event. And I wanted to have her back on the show to talk about this sense of happiness and to bring some real practical ways that we can avoid doom scrolling and so on to create a good boundary and to, achieve this balance. And so today I have Wendi on this show, and I really encourage you to listen to this whole thing. There's a lot of really good tidbits. And we start out by talking about the way our use of social media impacts our happiness and how we can recalibrate our approach to this.
We can really use a dose of maybe a reality check on how that use hurts us and therefore impacts our kids.
We talk about the importance of real and meaningful personal connections.
We know that the number one contributing factor to overall happiness over a lifespan is good, strong social connection.
And finally, we talk about how to create more opportunities for happiness.
Rather than just waiting for them to come to us, we actually have to do something and be proactive about it.
Please welcome back to the show, Wendi Dunford. Wendi Dunford, welcome back to the Dad Chronicle. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
It's so awesome to chat with you again. It was an absolute pleasure to see you at TMS Vegas earlier this year. Spent a little bit of time with all of those hooligans. Got to see you while we were doing a little bit of the mini golf, and we started chatting about this topic that we're going to bring up, which I think is really relevant, especially given the unfortunate circumstances over the past week. But before we jump into a whole lot of that, let's remind people about who you are, some of your credentials. And maybe we just start there.
Yeah. Okay. So my name is Wendi Dunford. I am a licensed clinical social worker. Have had way too many years doing this. Should I sound positive about that? Yes. 25 years of doing this. No. And I love being guests on podcasts. It's very fun. And I've started a new venture that we can talk about a little bit later, where I'm sort of trying to bring the education you may not have gotten in school on mental health to the masses. So, just enjoying trying to help people, feel a little better.
It's always great hearing your perspectives, whether that be just some of the work that you've done with Frog Pants and the times you've been on this show. It's always good for me personally as somebody that is a parent, and I know that talking to the other listeners, your point of view, talking about anxiety and some of the mental health pieces, especially around parenting, it's a great level set for all of us over here. So thank you for making the time.
Absolutely.
And I want to start off, first of all, talking about some of the work that you've been doing around happiness, around the kind of the mental health aspects of kind of what happiness is and what it isn't. And I'm wanting to start there, especially as somebody who is thinking a lot about the events over the last week. Unfortunately, Charlie Kirk was the victim of a political assassination. With that comes a whole lot of noise on people's social media, varying degrees of negativity, other things that fuel, for me personally, and I'm sure others out there, a whole lot of anxiety about the direction perhaps our country is headed, what it means for a parent to be, sending their kids to school when these shootings are happening. All of this cyclones in my head, Wendi, and I'm sure everybody else's. So, take us through kind of your thoughts on how people process this and kind of return to that center of perhaps happiness.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna back us way further back into the 90s really quick to give some context, because I think this is a little bit helpful when the scary stuff is right in your face, and literally in your hand and you're staring at it all day, is really, we have very little perspective in that moment, right? And so I want to back us out really quick just to talk about some things leading up to how to handle some of this with all the scariness. You'll appreciate it when I get there, I promise. Okay, let's.
I trust you. Take me on the journey.
Let's go on a journey. Let's go in time. I want everyone to wear rugby shirts and Gerbeau jeans in your minds, right? We're getting into the 90s, and there was a real turn in psychology in the 90s. It's when the positive psychology movement really got going, and Martin Seligman, there's lots of names you can look up to find some of their original early work, and really was shifting the conversation about mental health from, really, we weren't even calling it mental health at the time, right? It was the pathologizing of our mental experiences and our emotional lives forever and ever and ever. We start with Freud, we get up to this moment, and a bunch of these researchers were like, we gotta look at what actually makes us do well, or how does human thriving operate? And it's kind of weird to think about with our massive focus on self-improvement that seems so ubiquitous now. There was a time when no one was talking about that. And so they were really looking at what helps someone feel good, and we can deal with the mental illnesses that people are experiencing, the pathologies that do exist, but there's a lot going on that is really good, and we don't know much about how to increase that. So we start back there, and that's what I'm going to weave throughout what we talk about today, because it is so powerful to change the trajectory of people's mental health. Especially when sort of outside forces are just like closing in on you. And so I'm going to draw a lot from their work. And so I'll throw a bunch of things in. And of course, feel free to ask me questions. If I'm using words, you're like, what?
No, absolutely. This is great. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So, fast forward to the many iterations of human beings behaving badly. Political violence always existed in this country. It started with political violence. Like this is built into this system. But there is a bunch of us who have grown up and lived in some relatively peaceful times. And I know there's a millennial screaming, but what about everything that's happened in my life? And it's true. Mm-hmm. The ups and downs have existed, but maybe some of the certain things haven't been maybe as forefront. The reality is why that is probably the case is because we were younger and we weren't paying attention like people now pay attention. So a lot of this, and we can talk about what different facets of this, but you are ingesting, consuming daily, 190,000% more of the news than you would when you were a kid in 2004, right? Or whatever your experience might have been. And now we just kind of have a steady stream. So we're really putting our positive psychology to the test by training it over and over to be afraid and to see some of these hard things. Now, let me make something very clear. I don't want to negate anyone's fear. It's scary. And when you're paying attention and looking at this moment openly and honestly, like if you're not afraid, you're maybe not paying attention, right?
Right.
And so we'll get into how to actually pay some attention, but not your full attention, because you will not survive very well. We will move ourselves from the things we have that are working towards keeping our mental health afloat to moving into a territory it's tougher to get back from. So, okay, does that make sense? There's my little spiel. Okay,
it definitely sets a precursor too, and I appreciate you also talking about like I am that millennial, right? Like of saying, oh man, I remember vividly sitting in class in high school learning about the 9/11 attacks. I remember like all of those things, and it really feels like the inundation of information puts so much of my mental health at risk. And just and I think also just contextualizing how that impacts the generations, you know, even past you and me, right? Like our kids, like how do we set them up for success? All that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we will definitely get into that. But you bring up a good point. So your 9/11 experience, just the other day, my kid needed to, write his parents' experience of 9/11. He's 16, and so he's asking us about it. And as we talked, we just like kept going and telling details. And, wow. I was like, I'm the old guy talking about World War II. You can feel it's interesting. And, he was very like into it and wanted to know what we think. And what was wild is I was very newly married. We didn't have a TV. We were just poor and didn't have a TV. Right. And so we heard it on the radio, like the old times, and how we had to go to work to see TVs and then sit with other people who were crowded around TVs. That was our experience. So just take anything that's bad that's happened in the last, say 9 months. You are often watching, reading, seeing detailed, gory accounts by yourself, right? You aren't collectively gathering with someone. So because humans need this. So what do? Is we gather online, right? And in that gathering online, we have all the various facets that usually aren't controlled like they would be sitting with 10 colleagues in front of a TV in 2001, right? And so we've got a lot of human tendencies that go into play that backfire with the internet in ways that just no generation, no group of people on earth have ever experienced before. So if you sometimes think, what is wrong with all of us? There is some stuff that we are dealing with that no one ever dealt with before. But I find a lot of hope in that every generation, the olds are going to complain about the youngs and their technology. I think it was Socrates who said that it's going to melt everyone's brain, this crazy thing called writing, or the radio was going to entrap all of our children and destroy them. So, there's no shortage of being scared of this stuff. And then the younger people are just natives, right? And they know how to do it. But there is some neuroscience at play here that we can find a balance. So that's my goal today, is that I'm not going to demonize all this stuff we love to do, but also we can really use a dose of maybe a reality check on how that use hurts us and therefore impacts our kids. Just the other day I was thinking, I can't fathom having small children right now because of a few things, but one being how tempting it would be to just scroll my phone because it's so boring. Like it's so boring watching a baby do things, or, like you want to just escape a little or have a little mental candy or something, right? And I don't know, when my kids were little, I would go to a park and talk to humans, and that was as fun as it got. And and then phones came out, and it was a slow burn there. And so I have a different experience, I think, than maybe you do and folks with younger kids, because it is so tempting to just leave, get sucked into some of these spaces while you are actively trying to be present with kids. So we'll go into that a little bit too.
Yeah. Yes. 100% on all of those things. As the father of two young kids, one of them born in, COVID time, like that. Yeah. It creates a whole new way of parenting and new challenges. And it all really stems from, I think, the devices that we now have all this information in the palms of our hands. So how do we get to a point? Like, what are some of the reasonable things that we should think about as we're doom scrolling, keeping that mindset of of like what's important, pulling ourselves away from some of that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have you do something interactive with me real quick.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
anyone listening can do the same thing. So I want you to pull out your phone.
Okay.
And I'm going to make $1 million bet that no one is further than 4 inches from their phone.
Yep. It was just sitting right here charging.
Right there. Exactly. There was a joke for a long time. My husband worked for 3M for a minute. And there was a joke. You're never further than 3 meters from a 3M product until they started providing the glue for screens on cell phones. And now you're never more than 3 millimeters from a 3M product. So you guys are owned. No. Okay. So everyone picked up their phone because they're accessible, right? They're always with us. They're like an extension of our bodies almost at this point, right?
Yep.
And I want you to go through, if you have an iPhone, I can talk in iPhone language. I don't know how Androids work. I don't even know how to turn them on. I've tried. They're complicated to me. So anyway, go into your usage. I think everyone's got the ability to do that. And I want you to just look really quick at how many hours in a day you spent. And you don't have to reveal anything, but if you feel like it, you can. Look at a daily usage. And then the more important part is what are you doing in that usage? Okay, so we're going to start with some real honest look at this. And just what do our numbers look like? And so when I have people do this, they're often like, oh, that's more than I thought. Or, yeah, that seems about right. Or, ooh, I don't like that. And often, I'm working with people on time management sometimes, and they're just like, I have no time. And then we do this process, and we're like, oh, you have 4 hours you contributed to the algorithm on Instagram. So I think you do have some time, but how do you get that back, or how do you manage this is a different question. Okay, so that's step one. Everyone's got their little number, right? Then I want everyone to go to their drug of choice, and right where it is. Your brain has memorized the app, where you put your thumb. You could do it in your sleep. If you fumbled around in the dark, picked up your phone, I could say, find your Facebook app, and you would know, or whatever it is. So pull yours up. Could be anything. And then I want you to do this with me. So if it is some kind of scrolling, because scrolling specifically, I like to joke that the moment the world got, was really in trouble was when the eternal scroll was invented. And it's because it gives our brain every neurochemical sort of behavioral trick of the trade all in one thing, right? So I will just get a steady stream of some dopamine. And dopamine is the neurochemical that gets us to want to do something, right? So motivation, it moves us to the next thing. It helps us get stuff done. It excites us because we want the end goal. So maybe we're working on a project. We want to get to the finish. Dopamine is released in these various really healthy human behaviors that help us feel good, right? Dopamine gets hijacked really easily by various substances or behaviors. So, for example, you're going to have a 225% increase in dopamine if you use nicotine. That's a giant jump, right?
Wow.
You're going to feel great, blah, blah, blah. And I could list out, I know cocaine's 400. These are off the top of my head, so maybe they've changed. Cocaine's 400, and then methamphetamines is 13 or 1400 or 1100, something like that. Which is why when someone is, having problems with meth, they can't do anything else. Like nothing is as motivating as what the brain does on some of these drugs, right? So that is this like insane part of the neurochemical spectrum here. But when we pick up our phones, we are getting dopamine. And so as we are scrolling and this eternal scroll is happening, we have to use a little thing called willpower, which is very finite. Or, have you even heard of it? And we usually run out of it by like 1 or 2 p.m. every day, And so we have this, our neurology like loves this. It's giving us a little energy. I don't know if you've ever been like real sleepy and then you pull out your phone and you start scrolling and you wake up. You are now awake. So it is a mood enhancer, an energy giver. It will bring you some joy. I mean, you're going to laugh, you're going to whatever, right? So it is a little pill dispenser in our hand. And so all that is like fine for the most part, right? Except when we get into the doom part. And then the other invention I don't love is the 24-hour news cycle. Mm-hmm. And so you combine those two things that I can look forever. My brain rewards me for looking forever. And there is sources of attention getting negativity. So we have a negativity bias to our brains. It's what keeps us alive. It's saved us for all of evolution, which is something might be scary over there, pay attention. Something peaceful, lovely, and cute over here will get our attention for a minute and maybe feel a little bit good, but it's not going to keep us, scrolling all day long. So the negativity really works. The drama. I remember the first time any sort of reality TV was coming out, and I was like, why would anyone watch that? That's so, what? Ugh, I hate all of that. And then I went, oh, no. Everybody loves drama and gossip and the stories, and we're built for that. I just couldn't believe it was going to be real. I thought, Survivor would have one season and that would be over.
Right.
So I was wrong. Okay, so we have all this scrolling behavior. And so what I want you to do, you got your app open, you got whatever you like. Do you mind telling us what it is?
It's Instagram, and I'll tell you what, literally I open up Instagram, and the thing that I see is like, important update about Charlie Kirk's shooter radicalization. And I'm like, whew.
Yep.
You can kind of see where the algorithm threw me.
Okay. So take everyone, whatever you first see, and the algorithm will provide whatever it thinks you want, right? And how it knows what you want is that you've stalled on those things. You have stayed on them. You've engaged with them. You've sent them. You've received them. That's how it works. It's not, it's not Wizard of Oz behind there. It's just the math. Okay. And so that means you've been engaging with that content, right? So everybody who's looking at this is going to see whatever that first thing is that pops up is probably because you've been engaging with whatever that content is. So I want you to do something though. This is a little different than, because shame does us no good in any of this, right? And shame is I should do something else, or I'm wasting my time. And, and notice, probably anytime you've doom scrolled too long, you end up feeling shame or bad or regretful. Most people are not feeling good after this behavior.
It definitely sets the mood down. It's kind of weird, like, and especially as somebody with anxiety and depression and stuff. And also the dopamine piece that I thought was really interesting about what you said, like, I'm diagnosed ADHD. So that is such a big part of it that in my head where I'm like, and I think the shame piece is really important in that context for me, just speaking personally, because it's like, wow, look at the way you're getting your dopamine, Alex. Like you're trying to just ignore everything else around you and just doom scroll and all this stuff. When I really, it's interesting to hear you say that, because I'm realizing the negative talk that's happening.
Yes. And I'm going to flip the switch on what the negative talk is actually about. So it's like a part of you enters the chat when it finally can get through, right? So you are scrolling, horrified, thinking, should we move to Canada? I mean, you're having all that experience, right? And you'll run out. Your dopamine will be like, okay, all right, it's enough, right? And your mood goes down, your energy goes down, and your sort of core happiness levels go down. And in that space that is now created, we have, sometimes it's a bully, sometimes it's our mother's voice. Everyone's going to have a different part of them that enters the chat and says, you lazy, and especially ADHD folks, this is a real common one. You're very smart. You can get amazing things done when you got the hyper focus on, like all these things happening that are assets and superpowers of ADHD. But the flip side is always this sort of shame bit, which is you have better expectations of you, or you should, all the shoulds, or what a waste of time, or how, and those parts or voices can come in and be real mean, right?
Very
mean. And they come from a long time ago sometimes, and you're just hearing it in your own voice and beating yourself up. So I just like to throw this in. This is maybe a whole other podcast, but this idea that part of you couldn't get your attention. So it's kind of weird to think about it this way, but it couldn't get your attention while you were scrolling. And when it does, it's rude about it, but its goal is to actually help you. So this is a little new take, because normally we want that voice to go away. We hate it. It's the worst. But it is actually trying to protect you. It's just doing it in a particular way that is not that helpful, right? It just feels bad. Yeah. So sometimes I'll have clients try to recognize that voice and see it as the protective, part that it is, and actually thank it for trying to help you, and it calms down a little. So if you find yourself getting a lot of like this voice is ripping on you, you should be like, yep, I got it. I hear you. Thank you for trying to help me. And, take a couple deep breaths. But there's a lot of our systems just trying to work. And so we often have, especially with technology as it's developed, we have internalized shame around it. We also have a literal neurochemical shift after using it that can create these lower moods and more negative take on our own lives. It has an impact, right? So I'm going to actually have us do it right now. I'm going to show people as they are looking at their own feeds what the impact is. So take a minute. Maybe everyone sit comfortably in your chair. Take a big breath. Close your eyes. Really big breath through your nose. The best way to sort of calm our nervous system is to breathe in through your nose and then slowly, like you're breathing out of a straw almost, out of your mouth. So big breaths in your nose. And then like slow down breath out of your mouth, like you're kind of breathing out of a straw. And then do one more, big as you can. Fill your lungs. And then breathe out slowly. Okay, so hopefully everyone feels a little settled. And if you felt a huge difference just doing those 2 breaths, you've been, maybe your shoulders are crunched up or stressed. That means you're in maybe a bit of fight or flight, maybe too stressed all the time, right?
Wow, that's literally
just what happened.
Literally, I was trying to be quiet for the sake of the listeners, but listeners, that literally is my experience right now.
Yeah. All right, do that breath all the time. No one can tell you're doing it. You can take it anywhere. Okay, so all right, so now we've kind of centered ourselves, and what I'm gonna don't look at your phone yet, but I want to give it instructions first, and then we're gonna do it together, and you're gonna be like the lead here, obviously.
Sounds good.
And what I'm gonna have you do is we're gonna breathe one more time, get really centered, and I'm going to have you refresh on Instagram. Whatever comes up, we're going to look at maybe 3 posts, okay? We'll start with the first post, and I want you to glance at it. You might have to read a little bit, see what it is. If it's a video that's too long, I just want you to, the initial view of what it is, what it's about, etc. And then we're going to check in with your body and see how you are reacting to what is being shown to you, okay?
Okay.
So we'll start with the first one. So everyone take one more big breath through your nose. I'm trying to make it loud so people know I'm breathing. And then out your mouth, slowly. Okay, we're all settled in ourselves. And so open it up.
Okay.
First image, first slide, whatever. And just pay attention to your heart, your stomach, your body in any way. What happens when you see your first thing?
Oh, I just saw actually a picture of one of the previous guests on the Dad Chronicle with his wife, and they're all dressed up for a night out, a date night, and that kind of like it felt a little warm inside.
Okay,
felt nice.
Great, felt nice. Okay, so awesome. Let's go to the second one and do the same thing.
Oh boy. Okay, literally a jump in my throat.
Okay.
Just more Charlie Kirk attack news stuff.
All right. So describe the feeling. A lump, like a pain in your chest. Like how would you describe it?
It was almost like your stomach drops. You know, that feeling, and not in the way that's fun from a roller coaster. That way of like.
No, not fun.
Just feeling sad,
sad.
Like that sadness or the anxiety that comes along with having to experience that.
Yes. Okay. All right. Now let's take another breath and go to the third one and check that one.
It's some kind of a thing for Peacemaker, if you've ever seen that, on HBO. It makes me smile a little bit because it's funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for revealing your top 3. But what we learn, right, is that it's a roller coaster. And if I filmed all of you scrolling, I would see you flying through your feeds, right? People are half a second, know what it is, flipping. But when we slow it down and then look at how it actually changes our brains and our bodies, it's wild what we're willing to do to ourselves, right? And it's because the brain loves the hit. Like it feels really good, even if it feels bad in the brain for a while. And that righteous anger feeling or that I need to see what's happening. If I work with a lot of people, I have a lot of them do social media fasts for like 6 weeks, and their concern in doing it is always the same. First of all, everyone wants to, by the way, they all want to. They're like, yes, please help me.
And I love it when I do.
Yeah. And then the concern is, when we really get into it, I'm afraid I won't know what's going on in the world. And so one mantra I like to tell people or have them think about is like, what's going to happen while you're not paying attention? Literally everything that was already going to happen. Because we have this is a human tendency. So imagine we're in our villages of 150 people, which is kind of our best use of human social collateral. Like that's our best size. You're in a group of 150 people. You find out that somebody has a weird rash and they can't stop vomiting. And you're like, oh, guess what? I need to tell other people. How do we help this person? Also, how do we stay away? Is this contagious? We are going to have a response as our little tribe. That news is really important for us. We need to wake up to that news because it gets our attention, right? Mm. And so you can see that value. But what we're doing when we use the internet is that we are taking the 150 billion neighbors and we're taking everything they've experienced in, and we are rejecting it. We're absorbing it. We're changing our minds about it. We are being absolutely altered bit by bit, sometimes in bigger bits, by what we are consuming. And our brain's built for the one piece of gossip in our little tiny village, right? So the overwhelm, and this what leads to, so teenagers now, they call it brain rot, their own brain rot, which I love that they own it. They're all really like, oh, it's just my brain rot. You're like, oh, guys. But that's kind of the result in that you are, and for us as parents and as adults, we might experience, we feel less motivated. I mean, kids are having the same thing, but they react a little differently. But we're feeling less motivated. We're making plans in our heads to do things that we maybe wouldn't otherwise because we're just trying to feel better. It also might be we're behaving in ways that are not healthy for us, trying to escape from all of that, right? We have our other things going on anyway. And so the vicious cycle is actually when we're feeling crappy, we will then go back to our little pill dispensary and get another hit so we don't feel as bad. So this is where that cyclical, and none of us are maybe in addiction territory where we've lost our jobs and no one will talk to us and our family has left us levels, but we are in early levels of addictive behavior when it comes to this because it's created to do that. Yeah. So it's real tricky. So I would love to challenge everyone to do this self-inventory, like body inventory of looking at what is coming at you and recognizing that it is built for you, right? It is built to get you. It's fascinating when you're with someone who's very different from you and then you compare what the algorithm shows each of you. We are all living in really different worlds, right? We are getting this sort of curated feed. And if it is making you a mess, that's partly because that stuff gets you and you keep being drawn to it or, that kind of thing. Okay. So some of this awareness is important.
Yeah. And sorry, on that piece, I'm just curious, like, because part of it is like, my immediate thought was, okay, do I think about how I recurate my feed? Yeah. Or is the answer to actually go cold turkey? Is there anything in between? Because I've done that social media fast, life-changing. I did it right really after the election because it was just a shit show online. Mm-hmm. And I knew that it was just all going to be really bad and I didn't do anything. Came back and I felt that poison creep in a bit and it hasn't really stopped. Is it valid to say I need to recalibrate that algorithm or is the answer something else? I'm curious on your perspective on that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to pull our kids into this for just a second. When you know your kid needs a nap or a snack, how do they tell you? If they're not using words, how do you know your kid needs something like that?
Oh yeah, that attitude kicks right in, the fussiness. Yeah.
It's really clear to us, right? And I have watched over and over 2 adults in relationships complaining about the other's phone use. And it's like, it's not a problem if I'm doing it, but it's a problem if you do it, right?
Yes.
And so our ability to really see ourselves accurately is rough. And so we are probably moodier. Our anxiety's higher, our ADHD's going wilder, our productivity's down, our mood is low. We are not happy. And we're still going to go eat the Twinkie for dinner with our scrolling. So we're not awesome at this. And so starting with that perspective is really helpful sometimes to just say, okay, everyone's a little different, and cold turkey is fantastic if you can do it. I have a client whose rhythm he's figured out works really well for him is twice a year. It's like fall and spring. He just takes 6 weeks off. And because like you described, this poison comes back in sort of slowly. And you can actually keep it from ever being too bad because you got your next round in October of getting 6 weeks off. So there is value in that, absolutely. Some people, that's a little too hard for them. So here's what I would say on the other end of that is to do what I was just describing. Go through one at a time and mute anything that makes you feel crappy. And you can do this for 6 weeks if you want. You can add everyone back. You can unmute your crazy uncle and let's read his rantings again if you really want to. But what I like to do is I have people do this with me, and I will say, how does that one make you feel? I feel incredibly jealous. This person is on a vacation. Okay, we're going to mute that for now. And then we're going to take the envy you have about that vacation and we're going to explore that. So are we envious because you're not on a vacation? Because envy will actually lead us to what deficits we have. It's kind of like a mineral deficit. We're like, oh, I'm so jealous of anyone traveling right now. And if I look at your life, you haven't had a break in a long time. You actually need support in some area. We can find what's really going on that shows up as envy. So the Instagram is really good at cultivating envy. And that's because it's images and they can obviously look better, and no one's standing next to the mom screaming at the kids while she's taking that picture, except I have been a few times.
Yeah.
A few times I have, and it's horrifying. But anyway, that is a way to really reduce, and you can just say, I'm doing this for this week. This week's crazy. I can't pay attention anymore, but I want to see my cat videos. And so you just mute everything and just you look at cat videos for a hot, long week, and you're like, everything is joyful.
That is so good. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like,
really,
I think about, I was actually, as you were talking about that, just thinking about what my feed is. And a lot of that feed lately, obviously, has been a lot of the political turmoil that has been going on. Outside of that, I have a lot of like really funny things that just like make me laugh, like the Peacemaker thing. And genuinely, like you said, cat videos. Yeah, like I am that guy that has a lot of funny cat videos ending up on my feed. I don't know if you know of Merv the cat, but like Merv the cat is great. Like all of those things.
Totally. And if you have 1 week of like everything that just makes you smile, right? And this is where we get back to the positive psychology movement a little bit, right? Is we're doing a massive unqualified study as a society, right? If I were a researcher and I wanted to look at all of this, how does scrolling and being on your phone 5 to 6 hours a day and ingesting all these horrible things and seeing a violent murder or, whatever the things are they're coming across, what does that do to somebody? I would never get approval. It is 100% unethical to do any of the things we're doing. So I often think of it like this. If you've ever, and parents might have done some of this with their kids, some occupational therapy, or if you've been injured and you do physical therapy, if you think of how small that movement is they're doing with the kid to help him hold a pencil, and they do it an hour a week, right? And they come and they help him hold his hand right, or you're rehabbing a knee or an ankle injury and it hurts, but they're just moving in subtle ways and it builds and builds and builds. We are doing the same thing, but with our brains. And we're doing it without, approval from the health of for anyone, right? And so what all we're doing is saying, hey, listen, I didn't sign up to have my brain rotted. So what I could do is curate my own experience. It's being curated for you, so don't act like it's neutral. It's not. But if you curate your own, and even just to give yourself a real break, And notice, why am I grabbing my phone? Am I trying to avoid something, right? So the little kid thing I thought I brought up earlier, there's just a lot of sitting around. There's a lot of walking around. There's a lot of wiping butts and all the things you got to do.
Yeah.
And to have, we crave other adult conversations. Like there's needs that go unmet while you're parenting young children. And so our brain is going to crave that. And if it can get it from a podcast or it can get it from some other form, you're going to do it. But what we end up sort of running the risk of, and I'll get into how this relates to happiness, is not actually being present with our kids very much. And again, no shame here. We're all doing this, right? But we all feel guilty for it, right? And there's a reason. Again, that warning signal of, hey, I'm just trying to protect you from maybe your kid needs a little more from you, or this time flies by. You know, everyone says that. I remember being so annoyed when they'd be like, oh, enjoy them while they're little. And it was always some old lady by herself enjoying her retirement. And I was like, I don't want to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm in the thick of it and you're just sitting there.
Drowning with these 3 boys running over me, you know. But it does go fast. And if we're not present, we miss a lot of it. And we actually are going to be less happy in the future because of regret. And we're less happy now. So, maybe we should get into some of this, of what actually makes us happy. Yeah. And what it is, what it isn't, and then what we can do about it. Because so often we're just living and we don't maybe think in terms of, you know, maybe we're like, okay, I'm going to avoid this thing because it makes me so feel unwell, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that what you're talking about with what is happiness, what isn't, this sense of like, assuming what you think is happy. And I think it all ties back to that algorithm, because you're maybe that envy piece as well a little bit. When you were saying that kind of resonated with me a bit, where, I think we make assumptions sometimes of what happiness means to us. So what should we be looking for in qualities that would make us happy at our core?
Yes. Okay. So, And then as we're doing this, you're going to hear and notice the things that are the opposite. So, for example, being in sort of a really positive relationship, whether that's a romantic relationship or friendships, right? Think about that while raising kids. It gets tricky, right? I have to talk to that mom whose kid also plays soccer on my kid's team, right? Or maybe it's my best friend. I don't know. But there's a lot of social interactions as parents, especially with kids in school, that are forced on you and maybe don't give you all the good feelings, right? But if we really need, and we do know this, we know this from the Harvard study that's, 85 years of data. We know that the number one contributing factor to overall happiness over a lifespan is good, strong social connection. So we know that's a powerful principle in positive psychology. We can all say, oh yeah, I get that, right? But let's put into perspective what we're not doing to build those relationships and then what we are doing. So we'll just take that for an example. Think of maybe scrolling or sitting on the couch too long, or saying no because we're feeling anxious to some event where we could be connecting. It could be just we're too busy. It could be little kids always interrupt while I'm trying to talk to someone. I can't create these relationships. It's hard, right?
Yeah.
And so really putting some emphasis on some of these factors, and I'll go into some more, but that's one off the top of my head that really, really is important, is having good, strong social connections.
That's
so when we look
important, especially I think dads like me
huge.
Working from home, and then like I'm not getting out of the house other than to go pick up my daughter at school. It's like
right,
yeah.
And so we could add some. Let's just take you for a second. We can add a coffee break with a buddy or a colleague, or one of my new favorite things is clients using what's it called? Bumble BFF, and they just find a friend in their city who likes to read and sit at this coffee shop with them, and it's just super low key, and everyone's just like looking for a buddy because so many people are feeling lonely and disconnected. And so there's ways and to do some of this, but it needs to be sort of a conscious effort. So often take the scrolling for example. Does that make you feel closer to people? Sometimes, right? Sometimes someone's post will make you feel connected. But again, it's you and their 300,000 followers. It's not fully the one-on-one sometimes we need, right? But can it be a piece of it? Sure. Are your internet friends a piece of this? Absolutely. But a real face-to-face person is going to be pretty important for most people, especially in the trenches of parenting. So that somebody who gets it, someone who wants to just rip on it with you a little, or just gets it when you're like, everyone's barfing, I can't come, So we need those kinds of things because so sorry, I'm kind of jumping back to the definition of happiness for a second, but what it is and what it isn't, I think is really powerful. So I had a very cool opportunity this summer to be a teaching assistant at Harvard for a happiness class. And I came in not as the professor, but I came in as the therapy expert and had just such amazing access to these students. It was super fun. And we did a lot of really fun work together. Everyone's crying on the last day, which I don't think happens in the stats department very often. But it was just a blast. And we really got deep and we went into all of the science of positive psychology. And I was nervous, I haven't worked in academics very much. And so I was like, hey, they're all going to be smart and naughty. I don't know what I was expecting. And they ended up being brilliant, but super emotionally intelligent and just really so many lovely people. It was really diverse and fun. I loved it. And one of the things we figured out together as we went through what to do and not to do is to define happiness in some different ways than maybe we've been doing that. So I'm going to just throw you under the bus here for a second with your answer. How would you define happiness? And like when people I just want to be happier, what are we even talking about? What do you think happiness is?
Gosh, the way that I've been trying to process this personally is a lot of it's actually more of like the absence of my anxiety or my depression or just being conscious of the blessings that I have, like realizing that there are a lot of things in my life and people in my life that would make me happy and being more aware of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Right. You should have been in the class. Everyone had varying different definitions. Kind of the most common one often is I just want to feel good. Like I want to feel happy. Yeah. I want to be, and I want it like as if it's a consistent state. When will I be happy? Right. As opposed to what is actually going on. So if happiness as an emotional experience or joy or, all those good feelings, if that was a permanent state, we'd all be in trouble. There would be no plumbing, right? No one would get anything done. Yeah. And it would also mean sadness was a permanent state, or anger was a permanent state, or anxiety was a permanent state. We are built to have these things come and go. And often when people really understand that it comes and goes, and they just kind of have to breathe through it, feel through it, it will end. There's a lot of power in understanding that because sometimes, our brain will absolutely tell us the story. This will never end. A client a week will say, if I open this can of worms, there is no bottom. And there is always a bottom, and it's usually way closer to the top than you think. It's they come in, they go out, and if we don't process, that's where we get in trouble and things go sideways. And so happiness is a state, just like sadness, like any of these other things. Would we like more of it? Yes. If it was all the time, trust me, you wouldn't even remember it. You would quickly, it wouldn't be that great. So the absence of some other feelings is maybe calm and maybe these feelings of awe or joy or happiness, right? Awesome. But then if we took away your anxiety, you're going to get hit by a car, right? So we need as a human this balance. So what I really love to tell people is my favorite stat from the research that we dove into this summer was what is the core metrics of like where we get our happiness from? Because some of you are like, I came from a depressive household and everyone's sad. And you're like, I can't overcome my genetics, right? So I like to give this. How we experience negative emotions. So probably everything we would say is opposite of happy, right? How we experience them is 50% of that experience is inheritable, which kind of sounds high. Like, oh no, half of this means I get this from some family member, right? Mm-hmm. Then we've got 35% of how we experience well-being comes from our genetics. And then 32% of our life satisfaction kind of comes from there. And then here's my favorite part. 0%. This is zero genetic link to experiencing positive emotions. And that's what we're talking about. Happiness is a positive emotion. We can fill in a bunch of different words. Joy, awe, calm, happy, content. Zero of that depends on who your parents were or anybody else. But here's what's key is we have to be intentional. So we know about 50% of all this is biology. 10% is our circumstances, and circumstances can be real rough, right? And they come and go. But 40%, which is almost 50, guys, 40% is our intention and our ability to create more positive emotions. So that would be the other thing I would really, if we can dive into a little bit, is just how to have more positive experiences rather than just waiting for them to come to us. We actually have to do something and be proactive about it. So can I ask what you do that is on purpose to increase some positive emotions in your life? Do you have any sort of...
Speaking of just having to work from home all the time and that, I've kind of started to create more of that social community I signed up for this like burn boot camp thing down the street.
Nice. Okay.
And so it's like a big group class, seeing the same people, working out with one of my best friends, being able to do some of that raises, I just feel a lot better when I do that. It's a great way to start my day, and it kind of sets a tone a bit for the rest of the day, and maybe how I would manage challenging situations.
Okay, love it. That's because you're incorporating a couple of things that we know you have to do. So there is an acronym here for people who want to take some notes. And the acronym is PERMA, PERMA, and then the plus. So there's a PERMA plus model, and this was Martin Seligman and his colleagues. And it is having more positive emotions. That's the P. And so and I'm going to go through your example with these things. So the positive emotions, right? You are seeing your best friend. You are a little bit of sunshine, maybe a walk, maybe a couple things that just have increased your access to some feeling positive.
Yeah.
And then the E stands for engagement. And that is where we create flow, right? That's like killing it on a video game. It could be, writing. It could be sports. It could be anything where our skill set and the moment kind of meet and we feel good. You might be experiencing that as hyper-focus sometimes, right? These flow states. So that's engagement. So that means some meaningful work, right? So, being able to engage in your community. Okay. And then R is relationships, which I talked about a little bit, the positive relationships. And you are definitely doing that. So you're engaging, you have positive emotions, and you're seeing your best friend, and you're hanging out with other humans and building some connections. So there's that positive relationship. And then M is for meaning. And meaning can be real big and meaning can be real small, right? So meaning might just be, this means a lot for humans to gather, right? It could be that small of a definition of the meaning, or whatever else you might take from it, right? It could be something like, and then the proceeds go to help, rescue cats or something. I'm on cats today. I don't even have a cat.
Lot of cats. Hey, I'm good with it.
And then the A is accomplishment, and that is getting something done and feeling proud of the work you've done. And so you probably feel that after every workout. Then the plus is nutrition, exercise, sleep. Like, we can do everything right, but if we don't have some decent decent sleep, we are not happy. If we don't have decent nutrition and moving our bodies around, we're not happy. So you hit almost everything on the PERMA Plus model. Way to go.
Yeah, I was about to say, even the accomplishment, I actually, that accomplishment piece has been pretty prevalent for me in a lot of that stuff, and thinking about how I've been able to be, increasing my weight, being a lot more, having more endurance, things like that. Yeah. And as you were saying all that, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, this absolutely jives with what I've been experiencing.
You're doing it 100%. And that is, one thing I really like people to think about is what the research really shows us is that you have to start being happy before you ever get happy. Most of us think I will be happy. Our brains literally do this too, so nobody's fault here. But I will be happy when? I will be happy if I achieve this, or if my kid gets out of diapers, I cannot wait. Or, in my case, when my kid finishes his whatever test and I don't have to hear about it. Or, the car comes home safely at night or whatever those, if then it's a problematic framing because this is how life speeds past and we're not enjoying what's happening and we're thinking we'll get to happiness and it's just not true. So reverse the formula, we've got lots of research to show if you can start with embracing the principles of happiness and doing and living them, you're just going to be happy. It's just, you will increase your happiness. So if you think about that, like your example, you weren't probably thinking like, I'm going to make myself happier, but you did a thing that meets all the criteria of how you increase this happiness principle. So if we can think about it.
It was like a side effect almost.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And and what we do is we think of it as happiness first. So now I'm going to have you pick one thing in your life that you're currently not doing anything with. Did you think you were doing therapy today, by the way?
No. This is, this is great. This is great.
Like, maybe I should have got your consent. Later. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. But take something you're currently not doing that might align with any of those topics, which is positive emotions, relationship engagement, meaning, accomplishment, health, sleep. You're not doing a great job of it at the moment. And we want to switch it. We want to engage in it. So we're thinking, okay, I want to be happy doing this thing. I'm starting with being happy, and then we're going to apply some of this to it. Do you have an example of something?
Yeah. Just expanding on some of the creative stuff that I want to do. I've got a whole lot of ideas. Like, this podcast is one of them, obviously, and I'm putting into place. But there's other things kind of on the docket that I want to spend more time doing.
Okay.
Love
it. Okay, so keep that in mind, and we're going to predict. Humans are pretty bad at predicting the future, in case you don't know this. But we want to predict as best we can what happiness will come when you're creative. You're pursuing these things. What is it you think you're going to get in the end with all of this creativity?
I think just like a sense of outlet, and. I think part of it is just the desire to do more of this stuff more full time, having the ability to help the broader community of people out there in the world, and just spending more time giving back.
Yeah. So you already have meaning in this endeavor, and the accomplishment part and the engagement part you got to do. Like you have to do the work to get there. You're already noting relationships and positive relationships. And so we're going to just start with, so I live in Minnesota and I became a Vikings fan because I have to. It's like a law when you work there or when you live there. And it is a fun, heartbreaking team to be participating in. It is. Right?
Yep.
And something happened recently. They beat the Bears basically in the fourth quarter. And we have a new quarterback. He got hurt before the season last year. He was a rookie last year, got hurt. So he has not played one snap of NFL football. And he's a young kid, And so they're down. No one's playing their best. They're in the huddle. And he says this, one of the receivers told this story. And he said, that kid's different. And the interviewer is like, why? What did he say to you? And he looked at all us in the circle and he goes, would you guys rather be anywhere else? And everyone's like, no. Even losing to the freaking Chicago Bears, who they all hate, right? Wow. They're like, no, I would never want to be anywhere else. And he's like, me neither. And they're like, hike, and here we go. And then they scored 3 touchdowns and won the game.
Jeez.
This is also a kid who, in his entire football career, has only lost 4 games ever. Yeah. So he's so fun because he's really different. He has ADHD. He has some other neurodiversity going on. He's a serious meditator. At 22, I'm like, look at him just leading a bunch of, giant men who could smash people. Anyway, so that's just a funny example of like, he did the embrace happiness first principle, which was, let's get our heads on straight. This is a brilliant, amazing moment we have access to. Are we kidding ourselves? And then your behavior follows, right? And your example of, I'm going to do creative endeavors and put good into the world. Like, if you can take a moment, and this is where meditation can come in, this is where having some practices around getting your brain to see the gratitude, to feel the gratitude, writing it out, expressing it to others is another happiness principle that's really powerful. Because would you want to be doing anything else but like loving this kid or building this creative endeavor or being with your partner that you care about or this beautiful, weather, whatever the thing is? I think there's just a lot of value in shifting some of our mindset, because I'm guessing a lot of people, especially this week and other 9 months of life, have had their brain tell them how bad everything is.
Yes.
And then it's confirmed online, and then we're back. I mean, where are you learning all of this stuff? It's just this reinforcing principle. So we're going to interrupt it by embracing happiness right there at the front, and then practicing some things that go with it. So it's powerful stuff. It's not easy. It's not sit on your couch and scroll. That's easy. But it's, worth it and fun to be happy.
God, that's actually really profound, the way that you can drive intentionality around that. There's a great book I read a bit of. It's like, it was like The Art of Intention or something. But anyway, like they talk about just simply saying, I intend to, and start doing those things and living that intention, really shifts that happiness piece. Yeah. And so that kind of brought that a bit full circle for me. So that's a really great point.
Yeah. And would you rather be anywhere else? And you might you might be like, I would really like to be somewhere else. Well, and that's okay. Right?
That's okay. I think that helps you recenter it, right? Like having that mindfulness and intentionality. God, that's incredible. Now, and I know that you have a new program that you're coming out with that is going to center around some of this stuff. I want to make sure that the audience out there knows about it and can learn more and know kind of where to follow some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is KnowBetterYou, KNOWBETTERU, the letter.com. Kind of like, it's a bit of a university model, right? Of what you want to learn and needed to learn and maybe didn't know you were missing. So we've had a couple courses already. We have one on time management, one on sort of rethinking your health. It's called Health and PD, which is funny. But really having just a way healthier relationship with food and your body. And it's part of the happiness model for a reason, our health. But we have been absolutely filled with garbage for so long about how to see it and understand it. So a lot of that there. And really where the inspiration for this was, as I work with clients, I've worked with many, 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 many people. There's always kind of some core things not going great in their lives. And it's often some health things and some behavioral things around that. And sleep especially. And then, I've never had a client who didn't have a sleep problem when they start. It's just, it coincides with mental distress and sometimes causes it. And then the other being just not being able to manage their time well in the modern world and feeling regret and shame and all the things that come with time challenges. And then this is kind of the third pillar for me. And it's envelops some of this social, I see most people not getting enough social interaction and positive emotions and connections in their life. And so I'm applying it all into this sort of happiness bucket. And really the class is going to be so fun. We have a lot of support. There's a lot of group work. Which you can choose to just, lurk or not pay attention to and just do the course, or you can spend time in a community that's lovely and so supportive. And we really get deep on some things. So we have a couple live meetings and, it's really fun. So it starts October 13th. And if you go to knowbetteryou.com, you'll see the happiness, molecular happiness is what we're calling it. And we really are breaking it down in really small, tiny increments that you apply, and it turns into habits. So I've touched on a few of the things, but it really is about implementation. Because as you can guess, you can just Google, how do I be happy? Yeah. And you can find everything I could present here. But how to really do it, and to do it within the community, is incredibly powerful. And we have some coaches that help support that. And it's a way to really integrate it. So it becomes a lot less effort and becomes habitual. And then you will find, you can do a lot of these happiness things, and you'll know when you've stopped, because your happiness will go down.
Yeah.
And you will also find that, you can actually behave happy and become happier, which is really fun to do that with people. So yeah, check it out. I'd love to have anyone join us. And if anyone has any questions, you can email me at HEY@nobetteryou.com.
Yeah, I'm going to have a link to that in the description, so make sure that you click that and head over there. Wendi does amazing work, whether that be in that, in the courses and other podcasts and this podcast. You do so much to give back to this community. So Wendi Dunford, really appreciate your time on the show today. Thank you so much for walking us through that and taking us through that free therapy lesson, everybody. Free therapy.
Yes, absolutely. You're so welcome. It's so fun. Love chatting with you, Alex. Thanks for the opportunity.
Likewise. Thank you, Wendi. Thank you again, Wendi, for being on the show. It is just always awesome to have her and her perspective on how to just bring those practical applications when it comes to mental health, happiness, and so on. I definitely needed to hear a lot of those things. I'm going to put a lot of that stuff into practice. And I would encourage you also to just take the time that you need in order to process a lot of the things that have been happening lately. Find the right balance for you. And also check out what Wendi is putting together as far as her course and any of the other great resources that she has. A link to that stuff is going to be in the show notes. And for what it's worth, if you'd like to support what we are doing here to bring these sorts of messages and this sort of community, this support to parents, you can support us by heading over to supportadad.com and become a patron. Also, if you would like to listen to any of the other episodes, maybe something with Wendi, head over to thedadchronicle.com. You can search there for anything that had to do with Wendi. She's had a lot of other great topics that she's brought to the show in the past. And if you'd like to write in and comment on anything that we talked about, feel free to email thedadchroniclepodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and I especially mean it with all of the stuff going on right now. Remember to be good to yourself and especially be good to others. We'll see you next time.
If you like this show, check out more great content at incastmedianetwork.com.